I could have stopped her. I should have. But I didn't. I didn't think it would go that far. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back to the beginning. I used to be invisible in high school. One of those nerdy, quiet girls people look through instead of at. I wasn't talented at sports. I didn't excel at STEM. I wasn't creative enough to win language arts awards. I didn't even make enough of an impression to be bullied. Everyone ignored me. I was just a nobody. And I was lonely. So unutterably lonely that I would have done anything to have even one friend to sign my yearbook at the end of my final year. Then I went to college, and I met Lacey. She was my lifeline. She saw something in me that no one ever had before. She swept me up on my first day when I was blending into the crowd at orientation and introduced herself like it was no big deal. Suddenly, someone was looking at me instead of through me. Suddenly, I was a somebody, not a nobody. Suddenly, I had a friend. And not just any friend either, but a popular girl. I didn't magically become one of the untouchable elites myself, but I was close enough to the sun to feel her warmth. People knew my name when I went places with Lacey. They cared what I had to say when she turned to ask me my opinion. I got invited to parties. People waved hello to me without prompting. And it was all because of Lacey hyping me up, taking me to social events, sheltering me under her wing, and teaching me how to have the kind of college experiences I'd always dreamed about. She was the best friend I ever could have asked for. We weren't roommates. Lacey's family had money, so she had a single in the most luxurious dorm on campus. I was randomly assigned a roommate who lasted a couple of weeks before homesickness got too much and she dropped out to move back to Utah and marry her high school sweetheart. After her, I got a new roommate who was very into blasting deafening music from subwoofers at 1 a.m. and bringing home guys with swastika tattoos who stole my panties and sold them on eBay. She ended up getting kicked out for selling pills that might have been amphetamines, but could just as easily have been aspirin. When Clara moved in, I knew right away that she wasn't like my previous roommates. She was skittish, always locking the door even when she was just going to the bathroom. She wore enormous sweaters that drowned her tiny frame and walked everywhere so fast that I was surprised she didn't try out for the track team. She jumped at sudden noises and, weirdly, checked inside her closet every night, as if she still had the childish fear of the bogeyman jumping out. She was the kind of person who kept a baseball bat under the bed just in case, even though we lived in the safest dorm on campus. She told me once, in that hesitant, offhand way people do when they're testing how much to share, that she used to have a stalker back home. Some guy from high school who never really got the message that she wasn't interested and clung to the idea that they were destined to be a couple. He tormented her in her final year of high school, and the experience left her with a few quirks, as she put it. I think she was trying to befriend me by offering up this tidbit of her past, like a temple offering. She didn't go into detail, and I didn't ask. Maybe I should have. Cara was quiet, polite, and never got in anybody's way. She was a little weird, but overall nice. The kind of girl who kept her head down and didn't make enemies. Except she made one without meaning to. And that was why I couldn't be friends with her despite her overtures. Lacey's boyfriend, Matt, was friendly. Too friendly, if you ask me. Especially when it came to pretty girls. Of course, he never flirted with me. I was too plain. But he had an eye for a shapely body and went out of his way to speak to anyone he liked, even if he never actually cheated. Well, that I or Lacey knew of, anyway. I thought his behavior bordered on skeevy sometimes, but Lacey never seemed to think so. Instead, she said Matt was too nice for his own good and always blamed the girls he talked to for trying to steal her man. Kara was pretty. With her tiny stature, elfin face, and petite body, she came off more like a ballerina snapped from its moorings in a jewelry box than a real person. She was like catnip to a guy like Matt. He talked to Kara in the dining hall, held doors open for her, even walked her to class once when it was late and dark out. Kara was just the kind of person guys wanted to protect, I guess. But in Lacey's world, girls like Kara didn't get attention from guys like Matt. Lacey saw it as manipulation, a quiet, calculated attempt to steal what was hers. It was a silent contest. And Lacey? Lacey didn't lose. It started small. When she came to pick me up so we could walk to class together, Lacey moved Kara's pens, hiding them in her shoes or throwing them in the trash. Kara was meticulous about her desk being arranged just so. When she got home, she would frown and check everywhere fruitlessly for something to use to write her assignments, murmuring about losing her mind. Lacey, lazing on my bed and scrolling TikTok while I worked at my desk, would shoot me a secretive, triumphant grin when Kara wasn't looking. It made me feel uncomfortable, but whenever I thought about telling her she was being mean, I remembered the crushing loneliness of high school, and my tongue stilled in my mouth. Next, Lacey unplugged Kara's phone charger just enough so it looked like it was still connected, so that Kara woke up to a dead battery. She swapped Kara's shampoo with conditioner, so no matter how much she rinsed, her hair stayed limp and greasy. Once, Lacey set the alarm clock on Kara's bedside table to an hour early, making her stumble out of bed, bleary-eyed, only to realize halfway to class that the campus was still dark and empty. She came back, shaking with what I thought was frustration. Just little things, petty stuff, annoyances. Lacey wanted to get back at Kara without it turning into a whole thing. Kara never complained. She never accused anyone. If anything, she blamed herself. She'd shake her head, mumble about needing more sleep, and get on with her day. Her lack of reactions should have been boring and made Lacey lose interest. And for a while, I thought that was what was happening. Matt became busy with extra football training that his coach was putting him through to justify his sports scholarship, and Kara wasn't exactly seeking him out. In Lacey's mind, that meant she had won. But then Kara did something that changed everything. One night, we were all in the common area of my dorm. Lacey stretched out on the couch, flipping through her phone, me curled up beside her, half listening as she related something about the Kardashians. Kara was curled up in an armchair, reading a book on forensics that her professor had assigned her class. Matt walked in to pick up Lacey for their date night, fresh from the gym, damp hair curling at his temples. He saw Kara first, gave her a quick nod, and made an easy joke about her always working too hard and spoiling her pretty face with wrinkles if she kept frowning like that. Kara blushed a little and smiled back. Not flirtatious, not coy, just polite and a bit embarrassed. It didn't matter. Lacey stiffened beside me, fingers curling around her phone. Her expression didn't change, but I knew that look in her eyes. I had seen it when I accidentally contradicted or interrupted her in front of others. A switch had flipped. That was when she decided Kara needed to be taught a lesson. Lacey started asking me probing questions about my roommate while I pretended not to know what she was doing. I'd said Kara was paranoid, right? Did I think she had anxiety? Maybe the kind of anxiety she might be taking pills for? Where might she keep those pills? Did she have therapy with an on-campus doctor? Had I noticed how she flinched at sudden noises? What was the deal with her checking her freaking closet before bed? I shrugged, murmuring something non-committal, but Lacey wasn't satisfied. She pushed, Did Kara ever mention anything weird about her past? Was there a reason she was so obsessed with checking the locks? Why was she so nervous about being outside after dark? I should have told Lacey to drop it. I should have pretended I didn't know the answers to her questions. I should have figured out she was fishing for things to punish Kara. But Lacey had a way of digging in, of making it seem like just another conversation with her bestie. And I was too weak, too desperate to keep my place beside her. I caved, and I told her what Kara had confessed to me. I kept my voice low, like Kara might overhear, even though she wasn't there. I told Lacey about Kara's high school stalker, and that maybe that was why she was the way she was. I downplayed it, but Lacey's eyes lit up at this information. She didn't respond right away. She just smiled, slow and knowing, and tapped her expensively manicured nails against the back of her phone. That night, we came back early from the ostensible movie night we had told Kara we were going on. She was still in the shower. Her routine was like clockwork, so it was easy to come back, slip in and open the window just an inch, then slip out again, letting cold night air into the room. It wasn't enough for all the heat to escape, but just enough to make Kara pause when she walked in. She always checked the window was locked before she went to shower. Always. It was one of those things that she was fastidious about, like checking her closet. So, of course, Lacey targeted the closet next. She got a pair of muddy football shoes from Matt, who always got her to clean them for him like a good little girlfriend, and used them to make scuff marks inside the closet, prints on the floor, and stains on the door jamb, as if someone had stood inside, easing the door open to look out and see if the coast was clear. When Kara saw them, she paled so much I thought she might pass out. Even more when she saw the missing clothes that Lacey had taken. Then, the final touch. A text message. Lacey had been planning it for days, laughing about it like it was some elaborate joke. It didn't help that it was April 1st. A perfect April Fool's Day prank, she giggled as she went through my phone to get Kara's number. She'd gone out the weekend before and bought a cheap prepaid cell, the kind that took cash and didn't ask for a name. She set it up away from prying eyes in her luxurious dorm room, typing out different versions of a message, trying to decide which one would have the biggest impact and not give her away. I sat on the floor at her feet, worrying at the hem of the top Lacey had okayed for me to wear. She always checked my outfits were appropriate for her tastes, and trying to figure out how to say this was going too far without Lacey immediately tossing me out on my ass. Then, before I could summon the courage to stop her, Lacey settled on her message. "You're so pretty when you sleep." I remember the way she smirked as she hit send, tossing the burner phone into her desk drawer like it was nothing. I stayed at Lacey's for another few hours, watching reality TV I didn't pay attention to, while guilt gnawed at my guts. When I got home, Kara was already in bed, turned to face the wall, her tiny body shaking with, I don't know, fear? Rage? Frustration? No, definitely fear. After I went to bed myself and turned out the lights, I heard her shifting under the covers, breath coming fast and shallow. I heard the little plink of her phone when she checked it over and over, refreshing her messages, staring at one from a number she didn't recognize. I could feel her distress, thick in the darkness, pressing against my skin like a leaden weight. "You're so pretty when you sleep." I lay awake too, staring at the ceiling, doing nothing to stop the events that I had helped set in motion. The next morning, Kara barely looked like herself. She moved like a ghost, skin pale and drawn, eyes darting to every shadow. She shoved her things for class into her bag, hands shaking, phone clenched so tight that her knuckles blanched. I started to say something to her. I'm not even sure what. But she flinched away from me, and my words died in my throat. She looked like she was a single heartbeat from a panic attack when she left, dorm keys sticking up between her fingers like the quills of a hedgehog. She didn't come back. At first, I thought she was just staying somewhere else for a while, taking a break, trying to clear her head. But as the hours stretched into a full day, then 2, and her side of the room stayed untouched, uneaten snacks still sitting on her desk, laundry still folded on her bed, the unease settled into my brain. Then the RA knocked. That's when I found out Kara wasn't just gone from the dorm. She was gone from campus. She had come back while I was at class, packed a bag, drained her bank account, and bought a one-way train ticket. She wasn't headed back to her hometown, but I didn't know where she intended to go. Maybe she had family out there someplace who seemed better in her mind than her college dorm. Wherever it was, she never made it there. It was on the news a few days later. A girl's body found off the highway, strangled, dumped like trash. A suspect was already in custody. It was a man from Kara's hometown she had a restraining order against. A stalker she had spent so much time trying to escape after he broke into her house and waited in her closet with a knife for her to come home, only to accidentally stab her sister to death when she opened the closet door to borrow some of Kara's clothes. Someone Kara might have outrun if she hadn't been so afraid, if she hadn't been pushed to the edge, if she hadn't been driven out of the one place she thought was safe. The news report played over and over in my head for days. The grainy yearbook photo of Kara, the footage of police tape flapping in the wind, the words former student, restraining order, and fatal encounter. The guilt that had gnawed at me while Lacey was playing her pranks blossomed into actual pain. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing Kara in her final moments, alone and afraid, thinking she had to get away because the guy she'd been running from had found her, instead running right into his evil embrace. He had been waiting for her ever since he escaped the cops in her hometown. He had tracked her down to college, but been unable to get her there. She had been safe from him on campus. She had given his face to the campus police. They knew to look for him. And she had left that safety. Because of us. Because of me. When I told Lacey, she barely reacted. She just scrolled through her phone, eyes skimming her notifications, lipsticked mouth pursed like she was mildly annoyed but not really listening. Then she shrugged, muttered something about how it wasn't her fault, how Kara was paranoid anyway, how she would have run eventually, and it was only a matter of time before her stalker found her again if he was really that determined. Then she asked if I wanted to come over and watch the latest episode of The Kardashians that evening. And that was it. Like Kara had never been real to her at all. Like Kara's life had never mattered. I looked at Lacey then, really looked at her, and saw her for the person she was. Not the girl who had lifted me out of my high school loneliness. Not the person I had felt lucky to know, but a monster wearing a pretty face. Lacey had kept me around because my plainness made her look even better. My neediness made me easy to command. I was the equivalent of a nodding dog toy to validate her as she went about her life unflappably uncaring of the damage she did along the way. Something inside me cracked. I told Lacey I was done. I expected her to explode, but again she barely looked up, just shrugged and went back to her phone. I should have known better. I knew Lacey never let things go. By the next day, my social life was dead. People who used to say hi in the hallways suddenly didn't see me. Invitations disappeared. Lacey didn't just erase me, she turned me into a joke. My name showed up in group chats I wasn't a part of, attached to cruel rumors. Someone spat in my drink. Someone else tripped me up after class and took a picture of my butt where my skirt flipped up, then sent the picture to everyone. I became a laughingstock. Where before I had been invisible, now I was a target. And I took it. All of it. Because it was nothing compared to what Kara went through. I kept my head down and focused on my classes, endured every whisper, every laugh behind my back, every passive-aggressive little reminder that I had betrayed the only person who had ever given me social currency. I couldn't report Lacey's bullying of me without explaining about Kara, and what we had done to her was enough to get both of us kicked out. Lacey had her family's money to fall back on, but I didn't. It was open season on me, and Lacey had given everyone a metaphorical shotgun. Even Matt laughed when his football teammates stuck out a foot and I went tumbling down the little staircase in the library, scattering papers everywhere and bruising my upper lip so badly that for the rest of my time at college, my nickname was Fat Face. It was my penance. And then, one day, it was over. Graduation came. Caps in the air, fake smiles and photos, people making promises to stay in touch when they never would. I walked across the stage, took my degree, and left. No goodbye to Lacey, no looking back. The world stretched out ahead of me, uncertain, wide open. A second chance I didn't deserve, but was taking anyway. Kara never got to. But I did. And for her sake, I wasn't going to waste it.